Alexander Grant, a powerful and famously unforgiving CEO, entered his Manhattan office tower early one morning, his mind already racing through a day packed with meetings. The gleaming marble floors reflected the cold lights above, but just a few steps in, his polished shoes slipped slightly on the still wet surface. He froze, his frustration igniting instantly. To him, it was more than a minor inconvenience, it was a failure in professionalism. "Why is this floor still wet?" he snapped, loud enough for nearby staff to hear. "This cleaner's incompetence is unacceptable." Without waiting for a response, he marched straight to human resources. Known for making ruthless decisions in seconds, he demanded the cleaner be fired immediately. The HR representative, taken aback by his intensity, handed him the janitor's personnel file. Alexander skimmed it quickly, noting the name and phone number. Without hesitation, he pulled out his phone and dialed. He didn't think about the person behind the job, their circumstances, or even question if he might be overreacting. For Alexander, everything was about precision, performance, and perfection, and this minor flaw had crossed a line. As the phone rang, he prepared to deliver what he believed was another justified termination. He had no idea that the voice on the other end wouldn't be the cleaner's. He was expecting excuses or silence. But what he was about to hear would challenge his beliefs, pierce through his arrogance, and spark a transformation he never saw coming. The call connected after a few rings, but instead of a weary adult voice, a soft, cheerful child answered. "Hello?" she said, her tone innocent and unguarded. Alexander hesitated for a moment, caught off guard. "Is your mother there?" he asked curtly. "She's sleeping," the little girl replied. "She came home really late. She was tired because she cleaned your whole building last night." Alexander frowned. "Do you know when she'll be awake?" "She didn't eat dinner," the girl continued without answering his question. "She said she had to hurry because your floors had to be shiny. I tried to wait for her, but I fell asleep." Her words, so simple and sincere, landed harder than he expected. He stayed silent, unsure how to respond. Then the child asked, "Are you her boss?" "Yes," he replied after a pause. A smile was audible in her voice. "Then thank you for giving her a job. I want to be like her when I grow up. She's strong, and she says cleaning is important because people like you need a nice place to work." Alexander sat in stunned silence, the phone pressed to his ear. He looked out over the city skyline, the morning sun reflecting on the very floors he had once seen as simply part of the job. For the first time in years, he felt something stir, an unfamiliar mix of humility and guilt. The child's innocent words had pierced a part of him he thought no longer existed. Still holding the phone, Alexander leaned back in his leather chair, but the power it usually gave him now felt hollow. The little girl's voice echoed in his mind. "She says cleaning is important because people like you need a nice place to work." He tried to shake it off, but something about her tone, so full of pride and love, refused to let him go. This wasn't just about a late-mopped floor anymore. It was about a woman working through the night, skipping meals, just to make his world more comfortable. He glanced back down at the file. Her name was Maria Alvarez. Single mother. No absences. No complaints, until today. She'd been working there for 4 years, mostly unseen and unthanked. His eyes drifted to the photo on her ID badge. In it, she was smiling faintly, tired but kind. And then he imagined that little girl, sitting alone, drawing pictures while waiting for her mother to return from a job that no one ever noticed, except today, for the wrong reason. He looked around his corner office, polished desk, custom art, and panoramic views. All maintained by hands no one ever saw. A strange tightness gripped his chest. For the first time in years, he didn't feel like the smartest man in the room. A child had reminded him of something he'd long forgotten, gratitude. He slowly reached for his phone again, but this time, not to fire anyone. He had a different idea. Something had shifted. He just wasn't sure yet how far it would go. That evening, long after most executives had gone home, Alexander found himself standing outside a modest apartment building on the edge of the city. It was far from the penthouses and boardrooms he was used to, cracked steps, peeling paint, and dim hallway lights. He hesitated for a moment, questioning what he was even doing there. But something inside pushed him forward. He knocked gently. The door opened slowly. Maria Alvarez stood there, still in her cleaning uniform, visibly exhausted and surprised to see a man like him on her doorstep. "Mr. Grant," she said, confused and a little nervous. I came to talk," he said quietly. "About this morning." Before she could respond, her daughter peeked out from behind her, eyes lighting up. "Mommy! That's him. That's the nice man on the phone." Maria looked between her boss and her daughter, unsure of what was happening. "I wanted to apologize," Alexander said, meeting Maria's eyes. "I judged too quickly. I didn't see you, not really. But your daughter, she made me see what I was too busy to notice." Maria's eyes softened, still wary but touched. He turned to the little girl, kneeling so they were eye to eye. "You reminded me today that kindness matters. And that sometimes, the people who do the quietest work are the ones who deserve the loudest thanks." The girl beamed, and for the first time in years, Alexander smiled, a real, human smile. Not for business, but from the heart. A week later, the company's boardroom looked different, not in appearance, but in spirit. Alexander Grant stood at the head of the long table, not in his usual power stance, but with a sense of humility in his posture and sincerity in his voice. The executives, assistants, and even custodial staff were gathered, unsure of what this unusual all-staff meeting was about. He cleared his throat. "I've spent most of my career chasing perfection. Numbers. Results. Efficiency. But I forgot something along the way, people." There was a murmur in the room. Some looked surprised. Others leaned in, curious. "Last week, I nearly fired someone over a wet floor," he said, pausing. "But then I spoke to her daughter. A little girl who reminded me that behind every clean floor, every emptied trash can, every late-night shift, is someone giving their all, often without thanks." He looked around the room, locking eyes with a few of the cleaning staff. "From this day forward," he continued, "our janitorial and support staff will receive a wage increase, full benefits, including childcare support, and monthly appreciation bonuses. Because this company doesn't run without you." The room fell silent. Then, slowly, applause began. It grew into a standing ovation, not just for the policy, but for the rare moment of truth from a man who once only measured success in profit. Back at her apartment, Maria's daughter was drawing again. This time, the picture showed her mother standing proudly next to a man in a suit, both smiling. Above them, she had written one word, "Thank you."